Ms. Tree, formerly known as Mr. Steven. Our hope is to catch one of the fairing halves in the ship's nets and then recover the other half from the water with our other recovery vessel, Go Navigator. Our catch attempt will occur around T plus 45 minutes into flight, which will be after our webcast concludes, so we'll be providing any additional updates on those catches via our social media accounts. Lastly, the large truss structure that you see there is the Transporter Erector, or TE. That's what we use to roll the rocket out to the pad from the hangar and then raise it to its vertical launch position as you see there. The TE also routes the vehicle's fluids, power, and telemetry umbilicals from the ground systems to the rocket and satellites until F9 goes on internal power and clears the pad. At liftoff, that's what we'll retract in order to clear the way for F9's ascent.
Good afternoon. I'm John Innsbrucker, the Falcon Principal Integration Engineer at SpaceX, and we're just inside 10 minutes before launch. Good news is we're working no issues on Falcon 9, but we are closely watching the weather. Falcon 9 rolled out to the pad with the AMOS-17 satellite at T-minus 16 hours and went vertical about 12 hours ago. Now the chief engineer held a technical poll at T-minus 1 hour, and then the launch director held both the propellant load and launch go, no-go polls at T-minus 38 minutes. Now the go, no-go poll covers the 10 people who are counting down the Falcon. They electronically click on go in their online procedure. Now for Falcon 9, we've been loading propellant since T-minus 35 minutes. Falcon 9 uses rocket-grade kerosene, which we call RP1, for its fuel, and liquid oxygen, or LOX, is the oxidizer. It's that cold LOX that's causing the condensation clouds that you see around the first and second stages. Now with fuel and oxidizer on hand, we do need an ignition source to complete the fire triangle. Now for Falcon 9, this is T-Tub liquid, which is our igniter. You might see this at T-minus 0 as a green glow right before the engines light and the rocket takes off. Now currently fuel is completely loaded on the second stage. Fuel is scheduled to finish up on the first stage at about T-minus 6 minutes before launch. And meanwhile, liquid oxygen load is continuing on both first and second stages. Now in addition to the RP1 fuel and the liquid oxygen, Falcon 9 also uses helium to keep the tanks pressurized in flight. This helps fill the empty volume created as we deplete propellant out of the stages. Helium load began before the webcast went live. We're topping off until about the last minute and a half before launch. Now engine chill will begin at T-minus 7 minutes. You're getting the team ready in a minute to open up the pre-valves between the first stage propellant tanks and the 9 Merlin engines. This will allow a little bit of cold liquid oxygen to flow into the turbo pumps, bringing them down to a temperature close to that of the super chilled propellant that will soon be flowing through the engines at liftoff. So the Falcon 9's looking good. On the satellite side, the Spacecom team transferred AMOS-17 to internal power starting at T-minus 30 minutes. They completed that at T-minus 15 minutes. They're ready for launch. They're just monitoring telemetry on the spacecraft. The range tells us that they are green, air, and sea space are cleared.
Excuse me.
The big one is the weather. We had to delay half an hour this evening for launch. Currently the weather rules are all green, but we're watching everything as we go through the last 7 minutes of the countdown. So right now, all systems continue to be go for liftoff at 23 minutes after the hour.
As we mentioned earlier, tonight's mission is for Spacecom,
Both John
a
and
satellite
Kate
operator headquartered
this evening.
in Israel. Today
They're
we're
spoiling
launching
us today.
AMOS-17. AMOS stands for African Mediterranean Orbital Satellite, and the 17 is for 17 degrees east longitude location of the satellite. Built by Boeing, it'll be the most advanced high-throughput satellite
I did not know that.
providing communication services to Africa and have a life expectancy of over 20 years. Let's get some more details on our customer payload tonight.
T-minus 10, 9,
Interesting thing about this launch is a
7,
it's a replacement.
6,
This launch is free. The Space Shuttle isn't getting
5,
any money from this, I don't think.
4,
This is if you remember back in September of 2016, SpaceX blew up a satellite. Yeah, that was this customer. That was their satellite. So yeah, not exactly good. So that's what this launch is. It's not the replacement satellite, but it is the replacement launch. SpaceX owed them a launch, or a refund, and they chose to give them a free launch, so...
We're just inside 5 minutes from liftoff. Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of the countdown. First and second stages are both nearly fully loaded with over 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Stage 1 actually finished loading just a moment ago, and we have also begun chilling of the 9 Merlin engines. We're also getting ready now for the completion of liquid oxygen loading on both stage 1. That'll happen at about T-minus 3 minutes. Second stage will close out at about T-minus 2 minutes. The view on the screen is Falcon 9, the strong back part of the transporter erector still around the vehicle. We're getting ready to open up the clamp arms that attach to the second stage. Once the arms are open, coming open right now, you can see them.
There.
We will then begin retracting the strong back. That'll be coming up in about 10 seconds. The strong back will recline about 2 degrees away from the Falcon 9.
2.5, I believe. And there it goes. She's moving now.
Beginning motion of the strong back. Now we're using hydraulic struts to pull it back, and at liftoff, those hydraulic struts will pull it farther away as the rocket lifts off to clear the strong back. Another event coming up at T-minus 60 seconds is the call out that Falcon 9 is in startup. This means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown. There are 3 flight computers on the second stage that constantly compare commands and calculations with each other. That way, if any one computer develops a fault, the other 2 can safely continue the flight. So Falcon 9's looking good. The AMOS-17 payload, the Spacecom team, everything continues to be good for them. Currently, the range is tracking no issues. Everything
Making
is clear
space
for
feel
launch,
closer.
and the weather continues to
by
cooperate,
Spacecom.
but we've still got a few minutes to go.
Nice.
So as we've passed just inside T-minus 3 minutes, let's listen in to the countdown nets for the terminal count of Falcon 9 with AMOS-17.
Yeah. All right. So I'm not sure if it was covered or not.
LDCE, this is RC on countdown 1. Be advised, the range has got no-go at this time. Continue with the count. We'll execute a range hold at T-minus 30 seconds if the range does not clear the issue.
There's a boat in the range or something like that.
No, it got stuck.
What was that, John?
Stage 2 locks closed up.
Is there boats?
Gas closeouts.
LDCE, this is RC on countdown. Be advised, we're continuing with the count. The range is go at this time.
Oh, okay, there we go. That was fast. That was fast.
Startup.
Apparently, whatever was in the range got in and out real quick.
LD is go for launch.
Might actually get one here. It's kind of iffy for a while.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Stage 1, pressing for flight.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
There we go.
Liftoff.
See you later, 1047. You've been good.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves. It lifted off successfully, didn't launch successfully.
AVI power and telemetry nominal.
I got a notification on my phone that said it launched successfully.
Vehicle
I
is
was
supersonic.
Coming up on 1 minute into
was like,
flight,
no,
we're
not
getting
yet.
ready for maximum dynamic pressure.
Vehicle has reached maximum aerodynamic pressure.
You've heard the call out. We're through
Dumb
the region
clouds.
of maximum aerodynamic pressure. Vehicle going supersonic as we leave the denser parts of the lower Earth's atmosphere. Falcon 9 trajectory looks good. All 9 Merlin engines are at power. Everything looking good for Falcon 9. We're heading due east from Cape Canaveral, headed to the first of 2 orbits planned for today.
Oh, those clouds.
Nice view from the onboard camera looking back at the plume slowly expanding as we leave the atmosphere. The plume will get larger as we get out to the vacuum of space. Now today, first stage shutdown is planned for about T plus 2 minutes 45 seconds. We won't be recovering the first stage today, so that leaves more
And back
propellant to
in,
burn to achieve the required orbit for the satellite. If you compare that to last week's CRS-18 resupply flight to the space station, on that mission, the first stage shut down almost half a minute sooner than today. We needed to reserve enough propellant to be able to turn the first stage and return it all the way back to the launch site. Now coming up quickly in 20 seconds, a sequence of events. Main engine cutoff, the 9 main engines shut down, stage separation, and then ignition of the second stage
Excuse me.
engine coming up in just under 15 seconds.
Miko.
AVI stage separation confirmed.
Well, stage 1 camera died instantly, so there we go. See you later, first stage. You did as
We've
well.
had successful ignition of the second stage engine. The Merlin Vacuum D engine is up at power. Turbine speed
Stage 1
looks
FTS
good.
is saved.
You can see the nozzle beginning to glow red, a tradition
Stage
for
2
the
on
upper
nominal
stage.
trajectory.
First stage has completed its mission. It's falling back to Earth. As we said, we won't recover it. Coming up next, fairing separation out in the vacuum of space.
AVI fairing separation confirmed. Acquisition of signal Bermuda.
Nice view in the late afternoon. Sun shining on the payload fairing. The second stage
You
has
see it falling
separated the
back
payload
there?
fairing around the AMOS-17 spacecraft as we're now in the vacuum of space. Right now, Merlin vacuum engine continues to be on power. Trajectory looks good. Stage 2 is right in the middle of
Excuse
the
me.
predicted path. Avionics reports their systems are nominal. So coming up, 4 minutes and 15 seconds, Mark, we are go on Falcon 9 carrying AMOS-17 to the parking orbit, the first of 2 orbits for today.
Not much to talk about, huh?
So just past the T plus 5 minute mark into today's mission for AMOS-17.
Ah, Kate.
In case if you've just joined us, we
going back and
had
forth
a
still, I
slight
see.
delay due to weather over at Florida launch site, but we did take off at 23 minutes after the hour. And as you can see on your screen, the stages have separated, and there we have a beautiful shot of planet Earth as the second stage nozzle is glowing gorgeous red, orange, as it's carrying AMOS-17 to geostationary transfer orbit.
Stage 2 on nominal trajectory.
We have confirmation that the trajectory for stage 2 is nominal. Just after the second stage ignited, you may have noticed a couple of pieces coming off from the nozzle. If you've tuned into our launches before,
yeah,
you
the
see that
stiffener
every
rings.
time. Those are that's basically just a stiffening ring that we place at the end of the nozzle to give it a little bit of structural integrity for transportation purposes while the rocket is still on the ground. Not really necessary once the rocket has taken off and they fall away.
Stage 1 should be dying.
Well,
Well, it should be dead at this point, to be honest.
6:30 mark will be the first
Yeah.
of 2
It should be in
second-entry
pieces now.
cutoffs, or SECO 1.
Hasn't hit the ground yet, but or the water, but it's in a bunch of pieces at the moment, probably. Well, maybe not. Maybe not yet.
At this point in the mission, the second stage is pulling about
Expected
3.5
losses
Gs. You yourself may have experienced that. If you've ever been on a big roller coaster, equivalent to that, the space shuttle encountered about 3.5 Gs whenever it was taking off and re-entering.
3.5 cheese. No, it's G's.
Terminal guidance.
So we're less than 30 seconds away from second engine cutoff 1. Like I said before, this is AMOS-17, which will provide internet, phone, and secure communications to customers in the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. We're sending it to
Stage 2 ITS is
geostationary
safe.
transfer orbit.
A super synchronous geostationary transfer orbit. To be precise. And stage 1's pretty close to the drink at the moment, if not in the drink.
And we have confirmation that second engine cutoff has occurred and that we are in good orbit. So we're about to enter an 18-minute coast phase, so we're going to take a break, but we'll leave you with an animation that shows where we are in the coast phase. We'll be back at the T plus 26 minute mark for a second stage
Nominal
relay.
orbit insertion.
And that's... I don't know if I want to end there or not. I mean, there's not a lot left to cover. It's just another ignition in about 30 minutes or so. I think I'll just take the break and get ready for the real stream. All right. See you later.